So back here in Eastern Texas, we're just wrapping up a project for another client, and this is kind of a cool project. It's something I've wanted to do for a while now, and that's to do, or at least attempt to do, traditional 10th acre plots with the Deep Forestry trend. So a few things I found out with the system. One, as of now, it doesn't let you upload circle plots to the system. So what I had to do was go in and do, at first I tried like a 20 by 20 meter, and then I think I ended up finding that a 20 by 25 works the best to try and get everything within a 37.2 foot radius. The drone obviously sees a lot more because, you know, that LiDAR system, it's an Alster, that sees way past that. I mean, just even getting up from plot center, it's going to see more than 37.2 feet. I know for a fact the max range on that's like over 100 meters, but the Deep Forestry system, it tends to try and eliminate points 15 meters and they're out, just so it can get a tighter point cloud and more accurate point cloud. So, I mean, even 15 meters, you know, if you just take that number, I mean, what's that, like 50 feet or something? So yeah, we're already seeing more than 37.2 feet. So, you know, we yeah, it's not designed for it, but it's just kind of wanting to see what the data looks like and what it can do. So with that being said, we are typically getting about 4/10 of an acre, sometimes even a half acre in a flight. So, and what I'm going to do on the back end is go through and just say, all right, well, hell, I'll take a fourth of that or a fifth of that or whatever it ends up being. So that's how I'm going to work on the back end. And then we did do 100% census of 31 acres, which that turns more than capable of doing that. It was just figuring out what plot size works best, and how best to plan in advance for that. And so what I found with the current Avalar Deep Forestry integration is a plot size of 3/4 of a hectare, which for those who are really good at conversion math, that is just shy of 2 acres. But the drone, it always ends up seeing like 2.1, 2.2 acres, just because, again, you have that buffer on the edge, and the LiDAR sees out, you know, way farther than just that edge. So you always end up with a little bit more. So, yeah, we're going to have some overlap. And on the back end, how that works is identifying which trees are that overlap. And if there is a difference in measurement, just taking, you know, the average of that. So typically this system, especially in loblolly pine, you know, up north in red pine systems, and trees that grow perfectly straight, you know, kind of reminiscent of where the drone is from, which is Sweden, you know, the northern kind of boreal forest. You know, we're typically getting, the best I've seen is 2/10 of an inch, mean DBH average. And the worst I've seen is in the hardwoods, and we're still getting 1/2 inch, which is more than accurate enough for most people. Most people go to an inch diameter class. So yeah, it's a pretty cool project. I meant to do a video after my last Eastern Texas trip out here. You know, kind of looking over the data, and honestly, I just forgot. So I think I'll do a video where I go over the data for this project and my last one, because my last one, there was some more data that got uploaded, which I can dive deeper into detail on why it took a little bit longer and what some of the complications were. It wasn't pine, it wasn't in fly autonomously. We actually tried to put this drone on the front of a buggy, because what a lot of guys will do going through a stand initially is they'll take a buggy and do like a buggy cruise, they call it, and just go through, kind of size it up, see what they're dealing with, get some initial impressions of the stand. And so we thought, well, hell, you know, what happens if you put the drone on a buggy? And I do not recommend that. For the love of God, do not do that. The drone, it's pretty tough. You know, it can take a beating, But even if you're trying to be careful, stuff can still kick up and hit it. But yeah, made me super nervous doing it. But we still got some good data and we learned from it. And with a platform that is this new, that's key. It's just learning, okay, so here's its use case from Sweden, of doing these large plots. But here in America, we don't do that. So how do you make it work for existing systems? And then is there a way to take that data and translate it into something that, could fit into popular software like T-Cruise, for example, right? And that's kind of what we're doing with these, attempting to do these 10th acre plots. Is there a way that we could incorporate that? Because a lot of people use T-Cruise. I mean, it's great software, super popular. There's some others too out there that are really, really good. So now we're just trying to find ways to, incorporate the data set from this into that. One of the outputs from this drone, I don't know if y'all have seen the video that Levi, the CEO of Deep Forestry, put out, going over the portal and what you can do in it, and your, what files you can export. But you get a CSV file. And that CSV file you can upload to pretty much anything. So, and in it is height, dBH, volume. Then you get some other metrics. And if you need tree location, you can get it. Typically what I'm seeing, if I'm using RTK, is about 10 centimeters, 15 centimeters accuracy. And keep in mind, this is under a forest canopy. I mean, honestly, I'm placing an RTK in the best spot I can find. Sometimes it's a little bit more open than others. And then two is trying to, triangulate known points and, trying to find the drone. Occasionally you lose signal because, again, you're flying in a forest. It's not a traditional drone, right? It's super unique. So a lot of challenges with that. But yeah, the best I've seen is about 10 to 15 centimeters accuracy on tree locations. And if you're not using RTK, like today I won't be using RTK because, well, the wind blew my RTK over, and then I'm pretty sure a truck hit it. So yeah, it's down. The main shaft to it is broke, but that's an easy fix. I already got parts on the order for that. It's not necessarily a design flaw in the RTK. It's, stuff just happens in the field. And for you drone pilots out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Hell, even my foresters out there, stuff just happens, right? So yeah, the best I've seen with the onboard GPS is about 80 centimeters. So, and again, I'll dive more into some of these metrics and, how I was able to determine stuff like that in a later video. But yeah, this is a pretty cool project. Just wrapping up today. So, and I am getting a little bit later start. Typically in the field, I like to get started in the morning. But today, because it is a Saturday, trying to be respectful of hunters, because they usually get out here before sunrise. And, prime hunting time is, sunrise, when you can legally shoot, or, take a deer, to usually about 8 to 9 o'clock is prime time, and then again in the evening. So I'm trying to be respectful of them, because there is a lot of deer stands out here. I think I've counted like a dozen, maybe 15. So trying to be respectful of them, and obviously, as I'm going through here, back to the side, I'm looking for cars and, different stuff that would indicate, hey, somebody's probably out here. So, but yeah, pretty cool project. Looking forward to see the results. And one thing that's already come up from this, especially looking at the initial data, is there is going to be a feature update with Deep Forestry coming out sometime in the next couple of months. It's just dependent on, how many people are willing to invest in the system and what their use case is. Because these large plots work for some people already. Then there's other people who are like, oh, we need to integrate with T-Cruise. And that's cool. Now we're just finding a good way to do that. And I can't go too much into detail on that. I'll let Deep Forestry make that announcement, or if they release it, then I'll talk about it. So, but yeah. So that's all I got. Stay tuned for a follow-up video where I go over more of the data and we just kind of dive deep into it. Also on the site, we are doing 7 plots. Yeah, 7 plots, because we're doing 35 10th acre with this. We're verifying 7 of them with a traditional cruise. And I thought at first of myself doing that initially, but I come from hardwoods, and determining whether or not some of this is pulp, determining where it's going to go. I'm not too familiar with pine and making that call. So, and then also to be unbiased, because obviously I have the data. So theoretically, I could look at what Deep Forestry got and, use those numbers to verify. But no, I'm an honest guy. So what I'm going to do is, there's a number of good consulting foresters in the area that I know. Or hell, maybe even hire a student from Stephen F. Austin. Their students are amazing. Some of the best forestry students I've ever met. And have one of them come out and do those plots for me. So, obviously I'll pay him for that and everything. But yeah, that way it's completely unbiased. And yeah, we can, have more data to compare. So, and then yeah, I'll talk about the accuracy and what we got and all that in the follow-up video as well. But yeah, that's all I got. Stay tuned for that follow-up video. Should be out in a couple of weeks. And I'll talk to y'all then. Bye.